Welcome everyone in episode 6 of Boosted Rolls, a War Machine and Hordes podcast focused on EU meta, tournaments and tactics. My name is Tomasz and I play Circle.
Hi, I'm Simon and I play Legion.
And today with us we have a very special guest.
Hi, I'm Kasper. I play Rahn.
Alright, so you both went back from Danish Masters, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It was this weekend. I got back on Monday. I guess you got back a little sooner, Kasper.
I got back half an hour after the event was over, so...
Alright, so Simon, as someone that needed to travel a long way, please tell me something about the event.
Sure. It was a two-day event, 5 rounds, and I think it's a 32-player. Normally, I think we had 1 or 2 last-minute dropouts, something like that, usual thing. So I think we played with 30 players, something like that. And I was invited by Hesse, one of the organisers, and through the cooperation with a lot of the players, I managed to get a lift from Copenhagen with Gil over to. I'm going to butcher this, so I do apologise to all the Danish people. Aarhus? Is that
Aarhus.
even close? Aarhus.
Yeah.
Damn it. All right, I tried. It's better than my previous pronunciation when I didn't know at all, and I just said it was Aarhus. So yeah, that's... Right, anyway. So it's one of the cities in Denmark over on the west side, I want to say.
Yeah, on the mainland.
On the mainland.
Yeah.
I got there. Shall I go through the travel bit or?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Sure. So I got there by flying from Vienna to Copenhagen. Those flights are pretty good, pretty cheap, and for anyone who needs to, Austrian Airlines are pretty good because you don't have to pay for any extra priority boarding or anything like that in order to take a War Machine model bag. So you by standard you have hand luggage for like 55 centimeters by 30 by 30, something like that. So you can just board as you wish. From there, it was about 2.5, 3 hour drive. I think it's probably less if you put your foot down, and then a ferry across to the mainland, as you say, which goes straight into the city, really. It's like you park up the boat and you're there. And then a tiny drive to the venue. Kasper, why don't you tell us a little bit about the venue? Because I don't know much about it.
It's a sports facility. So a big hall for sports that has been rented for a con. They call it a con, but it's not really a con. It's single events all around. They play Fantasy 9H, Age of Sigmar, Malifaux, and they play some War Machine as well. And it's the European qualifier for the Danish teams for 40k, so I had like 200 40k players there. So that's it. Semi-annual, so there's supposed to be 2 events. A fall event and a spring event. That's it.
Alright, so let's move to the event itself. And maybe do some battle reports.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, round 1. What was the scenario and what happened there? Maybe we'll start with Simon.
Sure. Round 1, the scenario was invasion. I played against Søren, and he was bringing trolls with... maybe I should I explain my pairing first, because then it makes a bit more sense regarding other people's pairing.
Yeah.
So this time I brought my pairing was Kallus1 in Primal Terrors. That's Jake Van Meter's list with Double Chosen, Double Maximum Rotwings, Gudrun the Wanderer, Blightbringer, and Harrier with Amok, and Double Hellmouths, obviously. And then paired with that was my list, which is Kallus2 with an Archangel and Golab. Then Double Chosen, Double Hellmouth, again in Primal Terrors.
Nice.
And some Spellmasters.
Double Primal Terrors.
Double Primal Terrors.
Why?
Because I haven't found anything outside of Primal Terrors that you can play in a tournament.
And what do you think about it?
I think that it was more exciting than I expected it to be. It was more effective than I expected it to be. Especially during the list pairing process, Kallus2 really had the effect of scaring some lists off, of forcing some decisions from my opponent that they maybe didn't want to make. And I actually played him 2 out of the 5 games and won both of those games. So the list seems quite good, and I've since made a little tweak to it. But I think with some table time and with some some games, it could be pretty good.
And do you think the double primal terrors matches the theory about double bones that I explained in, I believe, the first episode, the fundamental approach?
Yeah, I got a fair amount of shtick from various players that I know for copying you. So they just said, "Oh yeah, that you spend too much time with Tomasz. Look at this, double primal terrors. It's just double bones all over again. Build your own pairing, Simon, etc." So I had to kind of take that on the chin because I think certainly our discussion has led me to at least think about and consider how double primal terrors might work and how I can tweak those lists to do different things. And they definitely do, and it's pretty effective. So I think your style of pairing construction here definitely applies and seems pretty effective even in Legion. So I recommend any player that's having trouble in their own faction to maybe have a look at doubling down on one theme and seeing what you can do to create enough variety within the pairing to still be effective. But by playing both lists in your most powerful theme, you can cause your opponent to quite accurately telegraph what they are going to play.
Yeah.
And then pick against it. So yeah. So I'll be a bit quicker then with round one. Round one, he had Kolgrimr and he had Horgel 2, is it? The fiery caster from Trolls. So this is a perfect example where Kallus 2 being in my pairing scared him away from playing Horgel at all, because all of the fire damage I would be immune to. And so it forced him into Kolgrimr, and I was very confident that Kallus1 with Jake's list would be strong into that. I won the starting roll, went first, ran everything forward, projecting a huge threat onto him. He was a little too defensive. We discussed it after the game. He moved forward, but not enough. And eventually I was able to just jam him out of the scenario with Kallus1 feat and with constant sort of just peace trading within the zones, and eventually won 5-0.
All right, cool. Kasper, what was your pairing?
I had my Rahn list, of course, and then I had Issyria. Rahn being in Forges of War and Issyria in Shadows of Retribution. My Rahn list, I modified my pre-CID list a bit to try to keep it as close to the original as possible. So I'm now running Rahn with Sudis, Ilias, and a Chimera. Then I have Elara Zero with Discordia, 2 Artificers, 1 Mechanic, Iris, the Mage Hunter of Aarhus, 1 unit of Arcanists, and 3 units of Battle Mages with an escort on one of the units.
All right. Do you think that going forward you would change anything, or are you happy with the list?
I'm actually happy with the list. I'm quite sure it could be better, because you can bring 4 unit of Battle Mages now. So...
And just more battle mages is better, is it?
Yeah, I only have 3, so 4th unit would make it better, I think. But then again, actually, I have no idea. I was also thinking about Lunas and Idria, or whatever the name is, just to ignore all these clouds that's running around, which would be mighty helpful.
All right. So tell us something about your round one, because the second list is irrelevant, so we'll skip it.
I played it once, but we'll get to it later.
Oh, you played it?
Yes, I did.
All right.
Round one, I played. Yeah, I played it with his Minoth in round 4.
Oh, really? Oh, I was misinformed. Okay, I thought you round everyone to death. Right, okay.
No. No. Well, I played against this guy Rasmus that I didn't know. Who's has been playing a lot of fantasy. He just moved over to Umshin like a year ago, something. So sort of new, but a gaming veteran for sure. The thing is, I was not the main TO of this event, but I was sort of supposed to support him a bit. So I just thought, hell, let's just drop down Rahn for round 1 and get it over with. Because Rasmus, he was running a Scavengers list, and he was running all the statistics with Gatsby 1. And this force barrier on statistics sort of scared my Issyria list a bit. So I decided just to go with Rahn. So he won the starting roll. He ran up, and I came second, of course. So I ran up as well, staying just out of his charging distances with all my stuff. My Arc Node to the left. And then an important information is we had a pretty big forest in the middle of the table. So coming into his turn 2, he ran his caster to the other side from my Argner. And just jammed in a bit with some stalkers and stuff like that. So it would be hard for me to do anything. So I got turn 2 and I put down a measuring proxy base just to see if I could get Rahn to within 12 inches of his caster in line of sight with the forest.
Why 12? Just to be...
Just because if Rahn, he has 8 inches on telekinesis. And if you have Zulus and he channels himself, that is not channeling, right? Because directly he gets an additional 2 inches, and feed gives him another 2 inches. Oh, yeah. So he can TK 12 inches, which is quite far, something people underestimate all the time.
Okay.
So Rahn charged a raider, Texas raider. He charged through one of the stalkers. So we carefully calculated that as long as I had focus, he could not one-shot my caster. Afterwards, he used telekinesis on himself and had line of sight to Kasper B.
So how far does it go?
22 inches.
All right.
So quite far, actually. So I got him and basically killed him.
And what did you need to roll to get the
Yeah, he's at 15.
So after the TK, you moved him closer to your army.
Yeah, back turned.
Yeah.
And I moved some models out of the way. I actually played it pretty bad because this was the first game, so I didn't rotate Rahn himself when I TK'd Rahn, so I got these jamming stalkers out of my line of sight. Right. So I complicated a really easy assassination run quite a lot by having to use a unit of battle mages to unjam these stalkers. So
okay, and you pulled his caster into the forest?
I ended up pulling him into the forest. Started pulling him around it, but then I just kept rolling 1s and 2s on the distant rolls, so he didn't move quite far enough. So he took some damage, he got in a bit, and then Helios activated. He had to trample over one of my battle mages that had activated to clear the stalkers, and I started dragging his caster to the forest. And at this point, he was knocked down with battle mages. Right. So I hit him 3 times, dragged him the forest, something like 5 inches, something like that. Then the last unit of battle mages started shooting and he died. So,
right, cool. Yeah. Good warm up. So Simon, tell us something about your round 2.
So my round 2 was on the pit 2 against another Soren. I think there were 3 guys with the same name, and I met 2 of them at least. And he was playing Retribution with Viros 2, and I forget his second list. Do you know, Kasper?
No, I don't.
Okay.
It might have been Gorshade 4, I think.
Gorshade 4, yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah, I think that's right. I think it might have been Gorshade 4. So Viros 2, Gorshade 4. And he chose to drop Viros 2, and I played Kallus1 Primal Terrors. Actually, it was a little bit in my favour that the previous evening, so I arrived pretty late, but I just asked someone to play, and luckily I found one guy who was crazy enough to play until 1 in the morning. And he was playing Kaya 3 with Tharn. And, with more like with warp wolves and griffins and stuff like that. So I just had some practice playing against a synergy caster. And so the mistakes that I made in that game, where I gave him too much synergy value in certain areas, were ones that I tried to avoid in the Viros 2 matchup. So I was able to basically kill a couple of things for free with Hellmouths, essentially. He was trying to use things to build synergy stacks and to sort of set up positioning moves, but again, I'd won the starting role and I was central, so when he tried to build synergy chains and so on, he was leaving stuff slightly out of position, and I was able to get clear blocking models and then bring a Hellmouth in to pull something in for free, only giving him a few rot wings in return. And over time, that just cost him too much. He didn't have enough models left to build up his synergy chains very much, and eventually he, under time pressure, he left a heavy that was just 0.5 millimeter inside a tentacle's command range. And so when he lost the heavy, he sort of lost the game, really, because after that, I was playing for time. He just didn't have enough models and units and everything to clear all the zones. I was ahead on scenario, so I was just making the necessary moves and clocking back to him. And that's something, again, I've learned playing against you, really, which is trying to focus on necessary activations rather than just activating everything every turn. So it came into practice here and worked well. So that was a clock scenario win against Viros 2 on the pit.
Oh yeah, great! Congrats. Happy to be of help.
Yeah, so I'm happy you were of help.
All right, so Kasper, your round 2 was.
That was complicated because, as I mentioned, I was supporting tournament organizer. So one of our players had to leave for this round, so we rolled a D3 die. I had to take the bye. So fast game, I suppose.
What list did he pick?
Yeah, he didn't pick anything. So
I thought this is your Issyria game.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. I played a real Issyria game as well.
All right, so, that would be a great way to pretend you'd played Issyria. Yeah, I played it in the second round. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, right? Sort of the supporter winning the tournament, having a bye, but at least it was in round 2, so the hard targets were still in the game.
Oh, no one felt bad about that. Don't worry about it. I mean, someone had to take the bye, and frankly, I certainly didn't want to travel that far to take it. So I'm really happy you did, honestly.
Yeah, that was the point. It should be one of the GOs at least. So
yeah. And it's like not a free win because if you lose later on, your strength of schedule is really bad. So all right, so we can move to round 3. Simon.
Well, this is actually Simon and Kasper because my round 3 was against Kasper. So we met on standoff, and Kasper basically told me he was going to pick Rahn in advance, and I was pretty sure I was going to pick Kallus1 anyway. So that's what ended up happening. And I've played against Rahn only once before, I think. And so I was aware of his tricks. I think most people sort of say you really have to play against Rahn to be able to, you can read it on paper, you can hear someone tell you, but until you've seen it on the table, you don't know what you're doing. And so my approach was to simply bubble wrap Kallus and then bubble wrap his bubble wrap and sort of move forward in a big blob next to the Blightbringer feet and win on scenario. So that was how I came into the game. And Kasper, how was your approach to the game?
My approach was to not get my stuff dragged in by the Hellmouths. So that was actually one of my main objectives. So contrary to what I usually do, I had Polarity Shield on my Arc Node this time, just to get a few extra inches. I've played the matchup once before. Was pretty much an identical list, and I lost hard on scenario.
And he was doing pretty much what I just described? Or?
Yeah, pretty much. But I feel attrition-wise, it's more complicated because you have so many knockdowns on the round list, and you slam stuff together, but you have to finish them, so it becomes quite dicey as well. And then I knew that you did not know me at that time, so you might underestimate the assassination. So my plan was to get my Chimera as far forward as possible to a point where it might be possible to put line of sight to a caster somehow.
And you went first, but I can't remember if you won the roll and chose to, or whether I gave it to you.
Yeah, I think I chose it.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
Do you prefer to go first with the run?
That depends on the scenario, and actually more on the terrain, because let's say they have a big house to hide behind one. Besides, I want that side. So, terrain is the main factor here.
And do you have +2 inches to deployment?
No, I don't. So plain old speed, but you have upkeeps out turn 1, so you can TK 4 times to get stuff pretty far forward anyway.
All right.
So yeah.
So I ran forward. I had the side with two sort of, if you imagine standoff and you've got your rectangular zone, along the right and left edges of my rectangular zone were basically 2 buildings. So my rectangular zone was sort of contained. It was like a corridor, and inside that zone is obviously the objective. So I ran my Blightbringer up base to base with the objective. I put Kallus between the objective and the Blightbringer, and then I put Chosen in front of that, Rotwings in front of those, Rotwings in front of my Rotwings, and Chosen in front of my Chosen, and just basically made an enormous ball that I thought was absolutely impenetrable. And then we moved on to turn 2.
Yeah, and it was not impenetrable, it seemed. I think we took, about 10 minutes before I actually started my real turn to measure out this proxy base for my camera.
Yes.
Because we just had to be sure where I could stand and only be engaged by a single Rotwing and stuff like that, so it was pretty difficult. But we had a judge over, and we got a location where it was possible, so I had a plan here, because I have spent 10 minutes doing absolutely nothing. So, assassination, it is.
Yeah, it has to be at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm actually not sure, but it might have been my Helios that started by moving Rotwings.
One unit of battle mages first.
Yeah, so one unit of battle mages dragging Rotwings out of the way, right? And one of the Chosens.
Yep.
And then Helios moving more stuff.
Yep. He was moving other Chosen forward and back.
Yeah, exactly. So I had the landing spot for my Chimera then. Chimera ran to where he could see Kallus within 8 inches, and Rahn activated. And from there on, it was a TK'd, I think, 2 Chosen, correct?
Yeah, one forward, one back to create a space.
Yeah, and then they cast a forward, and I landed the first hit. I needed a 9 here, so I had 2 chances of getting it. Seemed like decent odds, something like 80%, I think. And then I had a 2 focus, so I had TK'd my Chimera out of the way to get as clear as a lane as possible. And
yeah, that ended up being quite important, I think.
Yeah, it was. That was a good thing.
That was a good move.
Yeah, because I kept rolling 1s and 2s as well on the drags here.
Yes.
And the pushes on the first 3 battle mages.
Yeah, the first one knocked him down, right? But then after that, you were rolling 1s and 2s. Yeah.
I actually think the distance was more important than the actual knockdown there. Because at some point, you will get knocked down with this. So, yeah. But he got cleared of the Chosen and the Rotwings. And I had a fully loaded Discordia standing and waiting for him. But he died before he got to it. So...
Yeah, 2 units of battle mages did the job, even with 4 transfers and feet.
Yeah. So
I genuinely, even like 20 minutes into your turn, I still thought I was safe.
Yeah. and then you cleared the last Chosen, right?
And then it was when you knocked me down. It was when you knocked me down. I was like, oh, I'm toast. Right, okay.
Did you put Incubi in place of Kallus when he died?
I did not.
Yeah, you should have.
No, it was a really, really tasty assassination.
Yeah, it took 40 minutes, I think, on my clock to do it. So it was sort of complicated, and we worked on it, both of us, because so many things had to align. Model placements. So
yeah, it was a really tricky one to measure out, but we got there.
Yeah. I even think we got there correct.
So I have a question: how Simon should position to make this assassination impossible?
I think he should have been between the house and his Blightbringer instead. So I had absolutely no way to get to him.
All right.
I suppose his feet would have been less.
Wasn't enough.
Yeah, the feet would have been less impressive. Your feet, right?
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have lost the game. So I suppose the thing is you can't get even a little bit greedy. Things like feats versus Rahn will just die anyway. So.
And why objective wasn't enough? So in my mind, the Blightbringer was base to base to the objective, and you were the first player, so you couldn't destroy the objective. So
we TK'd him free of the objective, right?
You basically TK'd me backwards.
Yeah.
Backwards and out of the objective.
All right.
And then he pulled me sideways through a diagonal gap that he'd made in my army, that when just past the objective, we had to measure it pretty carefully with a laser.
What pulled the
battle mages?
Yes.
So they had the range?
Yeah.
Oh.
They have 18 inches red range under a round feet. So.
Oh, right. Yeah. All right.
So it was pretty brutal.
Yeah, sounds like a great game, at least to watch.
I was watching too. It was fun.
Yeah. All right. And what do you think were the odds for this assassination?
I think when I knew I could get to him, the telekinesis, that it was pretty good.
So the 9, two shots to the boosted 9.
Yeah, one boosted 9 is like 62%, I think.
All right.
So two should go to something like 80.
Yep.
So if I land those, I had, what did I have? 2 or 3 battle mages that could reach Kallus.
2 that were in range with the first, like you had 2 to get the first pull.
Yeah.
And if you got the first pull with anything other than 1 inch, then you'd probably get 2 more, and so on and so forth. So the important rolls were the first 2. You had 2 TKs to get the turnaround, and then you had 2 battle mages that needed to get me into the rest of your army.
Yeah. So the first time you had like 80%, and the second time you had something like a little bit below 80 to get it with the battle mages. So it seems decent.
What's their magic ability?
They have 6. So they need
6
need 9s as well.
15 because I'm turned around. Yeah.
Yeah. So 9s. So you have 2 times 80 to get it. That seems plausible.
Yeah. And do you have any source of Puppet Master in the list?
No, I don't.
All right.
You could add one of the magisters to get the magic ability to 7, but a free model. I just think the artificers play up better. So.
All right, so you should get a medal for the assassination, but you did later, right?
I got a medal in the end, yeah. You can say that.
It was a hell of an assassination. I'm not going to lie. I, as I said, any assassination where you still think you're safe halfway through it is pretty good. So,
yep. I'm always intrigued to hear about those because I've never played against Rahn. People just don't drop Rahn into Kruger for some reason. So.
Would you drop Rahn into Kruger, Kasper?
I'm not sure these days. I know I wouldn't drop into him in Mark II, but the thing is, I think I might be forced to with my list pairings because the Shadows team with the Issyria might not have a game at all into beast spams, non-warjacks. So,
so I imagine that this would be an attrition game or scenario game because a lot of stuff I can make unplaceable and unpushable.
Yeah.
You can make it unplaceable as well.
Yeah. With World Warden's anime, I can cast it on Kruger, and then you cannot TK him, you cannot move him, you cannot push him. You need Hex Blast.
What's the World Warden's anime? That's the forest.
Forest, and you cannot be placed or moved.
Alright, so they added that. Makes sense.
Yeah, so you cannot place a forest and then TK behind the forest to create a forest wall.
Yeah.
But there's a ricochet benefit.
Yeah.
the stealth buff.
Yeah. Stealth is a real concern for Rahn. So, yeah.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. I've played them in quite a few team events, and what we did is we took the approach. Is the caster immune to spells? Does he have stealth? Yes, no. So,
if no, apply Rahn
exactly
to affected area. Right.
Yeah. So, all right. That's the main plan. Yeah.
Let's move to another round 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Simon, what was your game?
My game was fantastic. I played against a guy that I've written in my phone as Danish Santa because he looked like Santa Claus. But no, his real name was Peter, and he was a lovely opponent. We had a great game. He was playing Kador. He was bringing double armored cores, I want to say. So following the new trend of doubling down on... no, I think the real reason was that he didn't want to paint all of his Rocketeers or something like that. So he was playing... Vlad... No, wait, let me get this right. Vlad 1 with Bombardiers.
All right.
So quite a few Bombardiers. So like 2 units of Bombardiers and a Siege Chariot. And then he had Vlad 2 with the more usual Shock Troopers, Demo Corps, but also a Siege Chariot. So Siege Chariot in both lists. I think quadrupled Suppression, Oppression, Tankers, all that good stuff, Armored Corps, Man of War, Kovnik, and, all that stuff. I actually decided to drop Kallus2 here. This was the first time that I dropped him. Because I played quite a bit versus Olaf Winroth at Battle at Lund. I played him in the Masters and in the Invitational, and in those 2 games it was enough for us to sort of investigate the matchup quite a bit. And the biggest problem is the Bombardiers. So Bombardiers are really strong into Primal Terrors because they have their range and mini-feet range of 12 inches. So Primal Terrors essentially has a threat range of 12 inches as well, if you exclude Vengeance, and my current lists don't have any real extension. So if you walk into the Bombardier's threat range, then they can mini-feet, all shoot twice with Power 14 AoE 3s, and combine ranged attacks, which means that they'll basically kill most of what comes into that range.
Hand of Fate, right?
Can they get Hand of Fate? Yeah. I want to say yes, they can. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
With Vlad 1, they get Science and Portents, so...
Same thing, yeah. So either way, you're eating a lot of dice and power to the face, and more than Primal Terrors can generally handle. So I found playing against Olaf that after our first game, which I won, he adapted. He played the list, I would say, properly, if you like, and abusing the threat range of the Bombardiers to really control the terrain and the scenario. So I was very nervous about that happening again against Kallus1, and so I chose my much higher threat range list of Kallus2, where almost everything threatens 15 inches in melee. And I was aware that he might drop his list with Bombardiers, and they've only got armor 16, so then my Archangel shoots on power 16 if I have the Animus up, so I have straight dice shooting, which is really good. That's what happened. He chose Vlad 1, I chose Kallus2. I won the role.
Battle group,
yep, sorry.
The battle group of Vlad, because he makes the battle group really fast on the fit turn.
Yes. So he had a Juggernaut and I want to say a Marauder. I think it was Juggernaut Marauder.
All right.
Have I got that wrong? Did you play against him, Kasper?
No.
So did he try to apply Marauder or the second jack into Blightbringer? Oh no, you don't have a Blightbringer.
Archangel.
Oh, Archangel. Yeah, because Marauder is the warjack with additional die against huge bases.
Yeah, siege weapon. Yeah, I'm wrong. Sorry, it wasn't a Marauder because he didn't have that in his Vlad 1 list. He had Juggernaut and oh God help me, I can't remember the Khador Jacks names. Oh God. Anyway, another Khador heavy. It doesn't really matter what it was. The situation became that the sorry, I've got confused now because I was thinking about the Menoth game as well, where I also play Kallus2. Spoiler alert. So into Khador, basically it came down to clock. He spent a lot of time on his early turns, and he got a bit nervous when he started to make one or two just tiny mistakes, but they rattled him a little bit, and they made him sort of overthink his next moves. And me going first was a really, really huge thing. So because I threatened so far, when I came up to that distance, he had to basically sit behind the scenario. And it meant I could do things like run a Chosen out of formation and just stand it in front of his siege chariot. And he couldn't come into the scenario zone while also dealing with it with the siege chariot itself. It meant he had to use something else to try and clear the siege chariot, but I was engaged by him, even though I wasn't engaging because I was out of formation. And that sort of little move and just generally projecting much more threat caused him a lot of issues. He was trying to toe the zone a lot of times with, one or two models, but I was able to clear them with the Archangel shooting and with some Chosen Battle Lust charges and things like that. But I never overcommitted, which was a big part of the game. And the clock was just ticking down and I just kept scoring my flag. It was Recon 2. And we actually forgot to deploy the objectives. So two reasonably decent players, and we both forgot that the objectives were there until turn 2. And by that time, most of my army was stood where the objective would have been. and he had already walked forward and put a hell of a lot of damage into Golab, and my Golab wouldn't be so far forward if the objective was there, and so on and so forth. So because it had so many impacts on the game already, we asked a judge to make a call just so that it would be objective. You know, we didn't want one of us to make the decision, so we just asked a judge, and he said, look, you've played the game as if the objectives weren't there, so continue to do that. So we didn't put them back in.
Right.
Actually, later on in the game, I needed 1 control point to win, and I really wanted that objective back. But he really didn't want me to have it at the start of the game because it allowed me to move my Archangel up a little bit further. So, you know, it was. I think it was, in the end, quite a fair decision from the judge and a good ruling. Yeah. So, in the end, clock victory. Just through back and forth scenario play, very defensive play on both sides. He was scared of my threat ranges. I didn't want to walk into his bombardiers, and I was winning on scenario, so I didn't need to. And eventually he clocked out. So that was my round 4.
All right. Round 4 of you, Kasper?
I was playing Peter, and he's playing Menath. He had the Judicator list. So he was running basically High Reclaimer, Adjudicator, and Severius 0 with the Dervisher. Some waters, exemplar waters, mechanic, acquire, a maximum unit of incinerators, a minimum unit of errants with officers, Avengers, and Rovin and Honor Guard. And that's his list. In this game, I played Issyria, which is now it's happening. Because Søren, that Simon played in the first game, is sort of the guy who keeps telling me what I'm supposed to pair Rahn, because I don't really pay that much attention to the meta. And he said that this particular guy, Peter, would probably bring the Judicator. He was spot on, so he told me to bring Issyria, just because math tells me that I can quite easily shoot down the Judicator with the Strike Force. So that was the game plan. I won the first turn, the dice roll. Sides didn't matter much, except I had a forest on my side that was, the bottom side of it was just within 12 inches. So what I could do was hide Issyria behind this forest the entire game, not get killboxed, which is perfect for cast attacks. So that's the plans. I suppose you actually want my Issyria list, because we have not touched on that yet.
That's a good point. Yeah, we probably should.
Yeah.
We both thought you'd never played it because I told Tomasz that, and someone told me. I can't remember who. So tell us your Issyria list.
Yeah, Issyria and Hemera and Phoenix, 2 Mage Hunter Assassins, Narn, a mechanic, 2 units of Strike Force with commanders, a unit of Infiltrators, Spears of Syra with Iris 3, and a Solis Escort. That's the list. So the main thing is that you now have ambushing infiltrators, which is really good. So
okay,
that's it. So it's basically the WTC list that Ben ran in 2017 with the Germans won. So it's actually pretty much just that exact list.
Okay.
But with the CID, what happened is that infiltrators got ambush, and Strike Force got a combined ranged attack and magical weapons, which is very interesting versus Menath in particular.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, so that's the reason.
Do you have much table time with that list?
I played it at a similar branch of list at the WTC 2017 myself.
Okay.
But then I've practiced a variant of it a few times for the event. So,
I'm sorry to interrupt briefly, but how did Denmark do at the 2017 WTC?
Pretty poorly.
Okay. Fair enough.
We got stomped.
Right. Okay.
Pretty free. So.
All right. Questioning ends. Carry on.
Yeah. so I won the starting roll, and I ran pretty much everything forward, outside of 17 inches from his Judicator. So he had to deviate the maximum distance on deviations, just to sort of minimize the damage he could do on his blasts. Here comes the thing about not paying attention to the meta. Apparently he can give the Judicator a true side. Which
that upset me as well.
Yeah, which sucks.
It's
when
better,
you have
right? It's Men of Sight.
Yeah, I had an Mage Hunter Assassin standing 17 inches. So when it's his turn, he shoots the assassin, and he tries to shoot the other assassin. But I have a shield guard from the Spears of Syra. So one assassin survives, and he kills Iris, and a spear, and a single strike force. So not bad, but pretty decent as well. And he runs forward. So I have my turn too. And he didn't pay enough attention to his right flank with the Vengers. Because quite a few of these, and his light jack on 0 was within 13.5 inches on this of the side. So my infiltrators could charge them.
Okay, and just give me a quick rundown of the map power and so on the infiltrators.
The infiltrators, they are not that impressive at all, but they have some new tech here. I'll open the card database just to be sure. They now have power plus strength 9. They have mat 6, speed 7, stealth, Pathfinder, which is pretty good. But then they have gang as well. So we go to power 11, mat 8, and they also have comp strike. So we're up to power 14 now, mat 8, which is pretty decent on the charge. And the thing is here that Shadows of Retribution, they have this theme benefit where you get take down and remove from play on melee attacks from warrior models. Which is very, very good against High Reclaimer. So I measured out a few things, and then Issyria just started, moved up to a good position, feeded, and put out blinding light on the errands.
Just remind me, what's the Issyria feat, please?
Science importance, but you get to choose the die you drop, and you get true sight as well.
Okay.
This area has a focus stat of 8, so it's a pretty large bubble. Just get this on now. Mm-hmm. So we went to town with both my jacks, shooting at the Judicator, which he shield guarded, and both shield guards died. So far so good, right? Strike Force, number 1, went to town. 9 models could shoot it. The math says that 9 off, science importance, single shots. I did the math before the event, so let's be sure. They did a really good chunk of damage to this. Not more than they should, but quite a lot. And the second group went and they killed it.
Okay.
Having 5 or 6 shots to spare on this. This was in combination with an assassin who just at first, dealing 14 damage. So 1.5 units of Strike Force and the Mage Hunter Assassin killed the Judicator on top of 2.
Nice.
The rest of the assassins did 2 combined ranged attacks, which they can do now, onto his Dervisher. And left it at something like 10 boxes. Was not happy. Next things, Spears fought a bit with the errands in the middle of the table. Nothing that important happened. But the infiltrators, they started charging. So they moved from play 2 of the Avengers. They brought down the Dervisher to 1 box. And an impressive 3 times I rolled triple snake eyes on the hills here. Yes, that's very nice. But in the end it didn't matter because he had taken such a huge hit this turn. So it didn't matter. It was basically important for him to recover from this. Afterwards we slugged it out a bit. I started scoring control points. He didn't. He pushed back a bit. He started coming in with incinerators, but they won't have a single attack, so nothing much happened. And in the end, he had to be really aggressive with his caster, move forward. So when it was my turn, I moved up. I shot him with a mirror. I was blinding light on him, got him down defense, and started shooting him. And the infiltrators killed him. So game over.
Infiltrators seem to put in a hell of a lot of work there.
Yeah, they did. They did. In particular, if you are not that sharp on the threat range of 13.5 inches from the side, they really hurt you. So.
All right, sounds like a good game. What do you think about the matchup? Do you think that it's avoid the turn you did so much work? Or?
Yeah, we talked a bit about it because first glance it seems very favored for Issyria. But let's say he doesn't move within 18 inches of too many of my Strike Force models. He starts asking questions on whether I should feed or not, how much damage I actually. put into it, the adjudicator, that is. So in theory, I think it depends a lot on deviations, actually, which is a really bad way to decide matchups.
Yeah.
But if he deviate well and kill a lot of strike force, favors the Menoth player, I think. If he doesn't, and the adjudicator dies, it favors Issyria. So
Can he stay in scenario? Well, I mean, not stay in scenario, but can he not lose on scenario and still keep the adjudicator outside of 18?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure. Some of the live scenarios where I can score, let's say, 2 points on zone and a flag, so might just straight up lose on scenario. But if it's a slow scenario, incinerators are really hard to deal with in Issyria list.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure.
So let's move to another round. It will be finals for you and round 5 for Simon. And you are fighting for top 3 right now, right?
Yeah. So I mean, we had quite a few players that were potentially going to end up on 4-1. So it was tricky to decide. But I'd been playing pretty grindy games, with the exception of the game with Kasper. But that game gave me a very good strength of schedule, obviously, in the end. So I felt like I was in a good position to fight for second place. And in the end, finished third. So my 5th round, the scenario was Mirage, and I played against the Menoth player that Kasper just played against. So I chose Kallus1, yes. Kallus1 was basically there. It was designed originally to try to answer High Reclaimer Adjudicator, because the sprays are fire damage, and I figured if I can avoid the sprays and only take the rocket pods, then it goes from utterly broken to just very good. Yeah. And if I could leverage this sort of high threat range of 15 inches, because normally it's that, if you enter 15 inches of adjudicator, everything dies. But in my case, it's if you enter 15 inches of my army, then your adjudicator dies. So at least my larger threat ranges and fire immunity was something that I hoped I could make work. In actual fact, it worked even better than that, because it scared him away from picking the High Reclaim Adjudicator, and he decided to play his second list. So moral victory already in the bag. He chose to play Resnick 2. I thought that was strange because, my fire immunity messes with Adjudicator sprays, but it also means that Resnick 2 basically doesn't have a feat. We played a 7-turn game and he never bothered casting it. So
what was the Resnick 2 list? Was it?
The Resnick 2 list was Resnick 2 with, I want to say, 3 Crusaders. That's the 10-point jacks that are just, hitters. And one other. Which one, sorry?
Inditer?
Yeah, that sounds right. So one Inditer, I think that's correct. And then with that, he had double Skyhammer Deliverers.
Oh, yeah, Martin's list.
Essentially, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Martin's list. That's right.
Yeah, double Idrians, double Skyhammers.
No, single Idrians.
Oh. All right.
He had single Idrians, double Skyhammers, triple Crusader, Resnick, Choir. What else?
Inditer was on Tristan.
Yeah, that's right. Inditer was on Tristan. Yeah, perfect. You see, you know this list much better than I do. That's great. But I can't remember what the extra thing was. So first of all, I remember that at Battle at Lund, me and you were chatting with Johan de Lind, and he was telling us how utterly dreadful Skyhammer Deliverers are. Yeah. And then apparently, in the meantime, they got changed. I didn't know that. Thought they were laughably bad, and moved forward and found out that they're really not. So these massive AoE 5 POW 20 CRAs came raining down, and because I don't run any shield guards, their sort of largest counter, I would imagine, things got really difficult. Luckily, I did do some maths beforehand and worked out what they could do, and I'm not an idiot, so my Hellmouths were out of range of this sort of bombardment in the first turn.
Sorry to interrupt you. For those of you who don't know, if they CRA with the entire unit, it's power 20, and the blast damage is power 15.
Yeah, on AoE 5.
Yeah, because you don't, you halve the power and then you add +1 for every member of Combine, not half the 20.
Yeah, it's quite crazy. It's a good little bit of tech. The AoE 5, I mean, it made me space out a lot of my pieces. My Chosen were actually taking damage from blast damage, which never happens. And one of the big factors in this game was actually tough rolls, which I'm not normally super favoured in. I tend to struggle with tough rolls and against tough rolls. You always remember the bad ones, don't you? And I'm sure my tough rolls are absolutely average, but in my head they're not very good. But in this game they were categorically great. So my tough rolls on Chosen were regular, and I was nearly always healing for 3 immediately afterwards. The Chosen were doing amazing work this game just by basically living. So the most important thing about this matchup, to avoid going too long, is there was a big building in the center, slightly on his side. I was able to go first. I can't remember whether he gave that to me or whether I won the roll. And so I ran the Archangel very aggressively up. With the flying high rule, I measured it out so that only about half of each Skyhammer group could shoot me, because I wasn't too worried about taking 2 shots that were sort of half the group. I was more worried about, taking those big shots, and I wanted to make sure that I was pushing him back because I knew it was Mirage. I knew that the scenario was very important and that I couldn't just let him have it if I was going first. So what ended up happening was that he positioned a lot of his stuff in order to try and get the Faithful Masses +2/+2 on his Warjacks, and to try and get his Warjacks forward. And essentially what happened was I just avoided shooting any of his infantry. I tried to never give him the +2/+2 bonus, and if I did give it to him, I made sure that nothing was in range of his jacks that turn. And the main way I was able to do that was by using that big building, and essentially I just had the Archangel sitting in the middle bombing stuff, and then repositioning back behind the building so that he couldn't charge me with his jacks. Because his threat range is only 10 inches, my shooting range is 10 inches, but I have Repo 3. So a lot of the Archangel doing his thing, and the Chosen on each side sort of threatening to charge in if anything came in. Again, this one was largely decided by Gudrun. So Gudrun just sat on my flag for the whole game, and made it very difficult for him to stop me from scoring, because the Archangel was on that side as well. And on the other side, my Hellmouth survived one of the big shots from the Skyhammerers, and proceeded to contest his flag the whole game. So just tentacles there all game, and he really struggled. And eventually we ended up doing a little bit of a sort of round the houses move again, where I went over the right side and took over that side, and he actually came down. And it was the first time I've ever seen somebody score my circle zone on Mirage. So he actually came over and scored my circle zone, because he managed to clear me out of it, and I was having to run away because I was too far up on his side. In the end, it came down to very low clock on both players, but I managed to get 5 points ahead because of Gudrun scoring my flag every turn, and eventually I was able to clear a couple of models that were contesting and run amok, just suicide through in order to contest his flag and zone again, and that went 5 up. But it was very close. I was very happy with how the Kallus2 list performed, especially in the fact that he didn't play High Reclaim Adjudicator. I mean, after that, I was willing to just go dancing around the room. So that was great. That was my round 5.
I was a bit disappointed to hear that, because I was waiting for you to do a battle report, how you destroyed Adjudicators, and I wanted to apply it to our previous discussion about Adjudicators.
Well, I destroyed them morally.
All right, so Kasper, how about your finals?
Yeah, I was playing Cornelius, playing Circle. We have played each other quite a few times before. Mostly I've played Rahn in these matchups, so we pretty much knew what was going to happen, even discussed it out loud, because we knew. So he was playing Kaya 3 versus Rahn. The thing is that
Kaya 3, and what was the pairing?
I can't remember.
It actually was Baldur. Wait,
yeah, Baldur 1.
Baldur 1, right?
Yeah.
Baldur 1 in Devourer's Host and Kaya 3 in Call of the Wild?
Yeah, I think so.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah.
All right.
He was running 2 ferals, one of each goat, a racer, griffin, and one of the other griffins, and support. That's his list, basically. So he had the big Remus, what's it called? Nalhorn solo, Nalhorn character, war beast.
The goat Jesus.
Yes, exactly.
Lord of the Feast, you mean?
No. The Warjack, the magic ability war beast.
Character war beast.
Yeah.
So the thing is that he had access to Earth Blessing from one of the
Satyr.
Yeah, exactly. Which would make me able to use telekinesis, but not knock down or push him anywhere. And also the enemies on Brenners makes it impossible to channel within 10 inches. So he could effectively shut down pretty much any assassination run I would have. But before the game started, we were joking around with, he's going to forget to cast an Animus, and he's going to die.
But the goat needs to cast the animi, and Kaya would need to cast Earth's Blessing, right?
Yes, that's correct. So he won the starting role, if I'm not mistaken, and he moved up, and I ran forward as well. And then his second turn, he managed to kill 2 battle mages with one of the griffins, and he managed to shoot my Helios in the middle of the table while blocking it in with griffins and stones.
And he shot with Ravaging Wind?
He shot it with something that does or cannot shoot. I'm not sure what it is.
AoE from
Yeah,
Brennus.
exactly. So I couldn't move out of it, so Helios would not be able to drag away his heavies. So he pushed forward with Kaya and feed it, and moved his 2 beasts in front of Kaya. The thing is...
He cast Earth's Blessing?
Yes, but he did not cast the Animus of Brennus.
Oh, yeah.
So, my second turn, we proxy out the Chimera once more, and we get it to a location where I can reach Kaya with TKs if I move out the war beasts in front. So we do that, and I get Kaya and I move forward 2 inches. I got turned. Iris walks up, shoots her. No more fury. He takes a bunch of damage as well. Afterwards, 1 unit of battle mages and an artificer kills Kaya 3. Game's over. So.
Alright.
I'm not entirely sure that his pairing was Baldur. Now that I've said it, it doesn't sound right.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what's in the list, but it was Baldur 1.
Okay.
I'm sure about that.
Okay. Good. I didn't want to misrepresent his pairing, but because I couldn't remember because he played Kaya against me as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Thomas, you were going to ask a question.
Yeah, I was going to ask about so you won the tournament and you've assassinated your opponent in each round, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
I wanted to ask about what do you think about approaching the tournament with strictly assassination lists? Do you think it's an effective strategy?
Not for solo events, no. Actually, I don't think so. The thing is, I'm surprised it works, because pretty much all the Danes know that this is how I play Rahn, so they're prepared for this, right? They will protect the caster. So I don't think it is a good strategy, but if you travel to another country, they don't know you. It's a very valid strategy.
But it even worked against those who did know it was coming, right?
Not that much. It worked against one guy who knew it was coming, right?
Okay.
One guy, and he forgot an Animus. The first Rasmus I played in the first round. I've never played him before. Then I played you. Never played you before.
Sure.
Then I played Peter, where I basically won on attrition and killed his caster at the end of the game, right?
Right.
And then I played Cornelius, who forgot to do all the stuff he was supposed to do, and he died. So.
Okay, so you don't think that taking an assassination... So, how about this? You have Rahn, and it's your main list, but let's assume that Rahn was simply a balanced part of your pairing. So you decided that your Issyria was a very strong list, and it is, by the way, and you decided that Rahn is simply the balanced part of your pairing. So now having spoken to you and knowing you, I know that you play Rahn very often. But let's imagine that it was truly balanced and that you looked at each game and you chose between Rahn and Issyria. Do you think that's a valid way to build a pairing, or do you think that it leaves you too weak in the scenario game against certain casters? Or, tell me what you think about that.
Trolls in particular can be a really big issue for us. Let's say Doomshaper 3. You have a Shadows of Retribution list with Issyria, with lots of small guns and not really that many high power attacks. You cannot kill the trolls, right?
Okay.
You have Rahn. You cannot move any of the trolls at all. So it's basically game over, right?
Would you not do something like a Viros and Rahn pairing then?
You could at least do a Viros and Issyria pairing, which I think would be more effective.
Why?
Because the virus list basically demands the same sort of answers that Rahn discussed. You have a lot of warjacks with a lot of power and boxes, right? But this list can throw away some models and still be in the game. Let's say you lose a single warjack in the Rahn list, attrition-wise. It's basically game over. So attrition-wise, you cannot misplay at all. If the opponent has a better plan, it's just over. But Virus does not have that particular weakness. Also, he ignores forests and clouds, which is mighty useful at the moment.
So why then is the Rahn Virus 2 pairing not the most powerful pairing in Retribution? You can ignore Forest and Cloud, which is exactly what Rahn struggles with. Rahn can assassinate any casters that were otherwise too strong for Viros to outpower in terms of attrition. It sounds, I would like to add a huge disclaimer that I know nothing about Retribution. It's possibly my least known faction at this point. But that sounds strong to me, especially given the power of the Rahn list.
It might be strong. There is some holes of things. Let's say you face off Grix with some hard-hitting dudes, right? They will break your virus list, and you really need to kill a lot of models with the Rahn list, which is possible, I suppose, but it's not.
Are you talking about something like a Skada 1 Dark Host?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You don't see Rahn being good into that?
It might be decent, but I don't think it has the edge.
Danny 1 would be a problem probably because she's stealth and do a lot of damage.
You debuff stuff and kill everything, right? And you have lost.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. Also, my particular pairing, I ran a risk. Just that, I faced trolls. Might have lost, but that is what it is, and I ran with it anyway.
Legion players have to do that all the time about Scorn. Yeah. There's nothing we can do. You meet Scorn, you're dead. Yeah. It's...
Also, the thing is with Rahn in particular and caster cards, that even if it's a bad matchup, you still have an out. And if the list is ticked hard for that out, it might not be as bad as you think it is. So.
All right, closing up, do you guys like your pairings and your lists? Would you change anything about them?
I really like my pairing. I plan to run it again and see how it goes. I've made one little change, which is that I've dropped out Golab and put in a Carnivian. Because while the 21-inch threat assassination on Golab is neat, it relies a lot on applying continuous fire with an Archangel, and a lot of people have shield guards and so on. Whereas a 17-inch Carnivian threat that hits very hard and is much harder to clear off with shooting because of spiny growth, and has this overrun assault continuous fire spray, and because it's a spray, it's very hard to prevent. So it also gives me two sources of continuous fire that allow me to light up both sides and therefore charge with both units I've chosen during the feat turn.
Do you have any source of remove from play in your pairing without Golab?
No. So, but after the discussion with the Menoth player about High Reclaimer, he said that Golab, the remove from play, wasn't really the issue. And also, I've played Golab into High Reclaimer, and the thing is that you simply cannot, even with the best will in the world, you cannot RFP everything. because you can't make sure that Golab is within 5 inches of everything that you kill in the whole game.
Like, but with Overrun, it's pretty strong, right?
With Overrun and Sprint, it becomes better, but remember that Overrun targets are really limited, so you're only talking about killing stuff with the Archangel normally, and that limits your order of activation because you often need him to go early in order to set up the continuous fire, to then get Kallus to feet, and so on. So the idea of doing Golab first is interesting. So while I'm not saying that the Carnivean is definitely better than Golab, it's certainly something that I'm going to test because I think it could be. And I think that the Carnivean is a nice little anchor in the middle that just sort of says, you put a heavy in range of this, I can choose to kill it, which is kind of cool.
Gives some survivability to Kallus with Spiny Growth, and exactly. It synergizes well with the spray because it's a fire spray, right?
It's a continuous fire spray, that's exactly right, and can be boosted, yeah. I think the Spiny Growth on Kallus 2 is not messing around either because Golab's Animus is Sprint, so it requires that Kallus 2 kills something, and it doesn't stack with Reposition 3 because they both happen at the end of activation, and you can't end your activation twice. So, so essentially it's Repo 4 for 1 Fury, or Repo 3 for 0 Fury. That's your choices when you have Golab. But when you have the Carnivean, you can have Kallus feeling a lot safer against shooting. You can maybe be a little more brave of sending Kallus in. I found in a couple of the games that I definitely did want to charge him in, kill something, set it on, set everything around it on fire. That could even set off the overrun, and he repositions 3, and then you stick an Archangel in the way, or whatever else you're going to do. Or you can overrun the Archangel, then send Kallus in, and then when the Archangel kills something, Kallus sort of runs out again. Right. So there's a lot of movement shenanigans in that list. There's a lot of threat extension. There's a lot of threat in general. It's really nice. It needs further testing. I'm not saying that it's game breaking, but I'm saying that it's solid. It's really solid, and it's really nice to see the Archangel on the table. Johan Lundström was kind enough from Sweden to lend me his Archangel and Incubi for the tournament. So a massive thanks go out to him. Also the second chosen. Sorry, he was really helpful because it was really difficult for me to take everything in my carry luggage because I had to take my clothes and my towel and everything in one bag. So a lot of the Danish community were really, really kind and helpful and made it possible for me to attend. So
awesome. And you, Kasper, are you happy with your pairing? Could you change anything?
Yeah, let's just start with the pairing. As I always said, I don't think the Rahn list is optimal at this point. I think it can be better. There's a few points. There's the Ilara running Discordia, where it's cute, right? That she has speed of death, so you can shoot something, spray 10, and then walk away 6 inches with Discordia. But it's 4 points, basically, or free solo. And you want to squeeze in the possibility to remove clouds. And also, they have changed the battle mages, if you remember this from the kit, so they don't have force barrier anymore. So you can kill them with blasts now. The Discordia kinetic imprint gives armor and immunity blasts within 3 inches. And if she is on Rahn now, Rahn also casting kinetic imprint when Discordia does. So that's 2 bubbles with a radius of 3 inches, which is immunity blasts, which is really helpful for the battle mages. So there's still a lot of things to play around with. But the Issyria list, I think it's just really strong, actually. So I'm not sure about that. That's for my lists.
And anything else you want to say before we finish up?
Yeah. 1 point. As you said, Simon, it was expensive going to Denmark. And as I've touched upon, we're trying to create a better meta in Denmark. One of the things about Denmark is it's really small, besides being really expensive. That means that if people want to attend Danish events, I can almost guarantee them free lodging somewhere close to the venue, which should help quite a lot.
It helped me a ton, I have to say. Yeah, to give a little more detail. So when I say really expensive, let me give you actual figures, because I think that will help some people deciding whether to go. Because it's definitely an event I would think about going to again. Because it was in the western side of Denmark, it was a little more expensive to get to, and I'll explain why. So to fly directly to the city of the tournament in this case would have been, I would say, unrealistic. That the prices were too much because you had to fly to Copenhagen and then take an internal flight connection, and that was very pricey. However, the local community, as I said, very helpful, and I was able to get a lift with one of the guys going from Copenhagen, and I think there were several guys driving over there. The cost from Copenhagen to the venue and back was about €60. Because there were only two of us in the car, so we weren't able to share the petrol cost quite so much, and we had to take the ferry across and the ferry back, and so on and so forth. So I think in total I paid something like 500 Danish crowns for the journey,
which is
about, as I said, about 65 euro.
Right.
And then on top of that, my flights from Vienna, got to remember that Austria is a rather expensive country to fly from and to, and they have a lot of air tax and so on. But those flights were about 140 euros. I think you could get it down quite a bit. I think I saw flights for 90 from Prague and so on. So I think all up, you could be looking at 150 to 200 euros for the travel. Then